We're here at the council house at New Echota, one of two important buildings that the government operations would have used. Each fall, the Cherokee Council, as it was called, the legislature met in the building like you see behind me. This is a 1994 reconstruction of the council house that would have been at New Echota, and the second building would have been the Supreme Court House. Each October, hundreds of Cherokee from all over the nation came here to meet with their legislators to discuss business of the Cherokee Nation, issues facing the state of Georgia and surrounding states, as well as the federal government. We know from records that the council house was a 19 by 31 foot hewn timber building, 2-story. It had a brick fireplace and 8 windows. And as we'll see inside, benches from both the council members and other guests that were coming to deal with the business of the Cherokee Nation. Remember, this was one of 36 buildings at New Echota. Let's step inside and take a look at the interior of the council house now. Here inside the Cherokee Council House, a lot of people are surprised to see the construction and the way the government had been arranged by the 1820s. Earlier traditions were quite different. Cherokee councils were governed by a red chief and a white chief, with the red chief governing affairs during the wartime and a white chief, as he was called, who governed affairs during times of peace. Earlier days in the traditional Cherokee Council, even Cherokee women had a voice and could stand and have their opinions heard and taken into consideration for decisions to be made. But by New Echota's time, the Cherokee were attempting to do a lot of things to try to hold on to their land. One of them was to change their government to mirror the United States government, and we saw that here at the Cherokee Council that was held in October of each year. Let's talk a little bit more about it and the members of the Cherokee Council. Here in the council house at New Echota, 3 branches of government were established just as they are with the United States government. Here they had a Cherokee General Council, as it was called. It was made up of 40 council members who had come from far and wide to New Echota for their council meetings. You had 5 representatives that were elected from 8 different congressional districts, or legislative districts as they were known, and you also had district courts for the judicial branch there. You see pictures above the fireplace here of the executive branch. You had John Ross in the center as their principal chief, Major Lowry as the deputy chief, and on the right, Major Ridge, who was their speaker of the council. These positions very much mirrored our president, vice president, and our speaker of the House of Representatives. Here in the lower section, 40 council members would have sat. Their 40 council members were also divided into a national committee that served much like our Senate, and their National Council, which served much like our House of Representatives. Bills were being presented in council each October, and they had to be voted on by both bodies of the government, just like with us. The executive branch would quite often sit up here, or the council member who was speaking on behalf of his district to help make laws. So you had the Cherokee National Committee upstairs in this building meeting to pass a bill or to not pass it, and the Cherokee Council downstairs to meet also. For the Cherokee, bills had to pass both the National Committee and the National Council before John Ross could sign them into a law and make them effective. And just as we can override a president or a governor's vote on a bill, the Cherokee Council could also override that veto with a 3/5 vote. The third branch of the government that the Cherokees were copying here at New Echota, based on the United States government, was the judicial. And it was where the Supreme Court met here at New Echota in October. 8 legislative districts also had 8 district courts. And if you appealed your case from the jury trial level at the lower courts, you came to New Echota for the Supreme Court, where cases were being heard by 3 Supreme Court justices that had been elected by the Cherokee Council. You had to be a 25-year-old male Cherokee to hold any position of honor, as they called it, meaning a legislative position or a judicial judge's position. One of the things they did different here, though, was that they didn't have a system of jails and prisons. If you were convicted of a law violation in the Cherokee court, they actually would punish you in one of 3 ways. They would punish you with fines, whippings, or hangings, depending on the severity of the crime, which was very similar to the surrounding state laws of that time period.